Considering the 2-week break until the Belgian Grand Prix, there is still time to look back at the latest round of the 2025 season, the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, and more specifically, how the Ferrari SF-25 racing car, driven by 7-time Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton, encountered a significant technical issue involving the onboard global positioning system unit fitted on car number 44. While the malfunction did not directly affect the vehicle's drivability or mechanical performance on the track, it was far from a minor setback. In reality, the absence of real-time GPS data posed a major problem from a strategic and operational standpoint for the Ferrari team. Despite the limitation, Lewis Hamilton approached the race with his usual calm, professionalism, and vast racing experience, focusing on extracting as much information as possible from the track conditions through his own instincts and feel from inside the cockpit. The 2025 British Grand Prix at the historic Silverstone circuit proved to be particularly challenging for British driver Lewis Hamilton. Beyond the already demanding conditions caused by constantly shifting and unpredictable weather patterns, which introduced multiple variables throughout the event, the Ferrari team was dealt an additional blow. As team principal Vasseur confirmed in the post-race interviews and media debrief, Lewis Hamilton's race was significantly compromised due to a total and irrecoverable loss of the car's GPS signal. This failure meant that throughout the race, the Ferrari pit wall had no access to Lewis Hamilton's live telemetry location data. In modern Formula One, the GPS system, along with real-time telemetry and data acquisition tools, plays a crucial role in informing the team's strategy decisions, especially during Grand Prix events held under mixed or unstable weather conditions, such as those experienced at Silverstone. Vasseur, the French team boss of Ferrari, described the situation clearly and in detail, stating that the number 44 car driven by Lewis Hamilton was effectively invisible to their data systems. In practical terms, this meant that the pit wall had no way of knowing the Britain's exact location on the circuit at any given moment during the race. This failure occurred during a Grand Prix that was already extremely complex from a strategic standpoint due to frequent shifts between wet and dry conditions. Nonetheless, the Ferrari strategy team remained composed and refrained from panic. They chose to rely on the vast experience and driving intelligence of Lewis Hamilton. Without access to precise data from their own car, Ferrari engineers shifted their attention to carefully analyzing the behavior and strategies of rival teams and competing drivers on the track. By doing so, they aimed to draw conclusions about how best to manage the race, and just as importantly, what actions to avoid under such unpredictable conditions. There was no major formation lap mistake, but Ferrari's pit stop strategy cost valuable time. To his credit, Lewis Hamilton managed to avoid making the same strategic error that effectively ruined the race of his teammate Charles Leclerc. The driver from Monaco, along with the Ferrari pit wall, had made the premature decision to switch to slicks, the dry weather tires, during the very formation lap, a move that proved disastrous given that the track was still far too wet. That poor judgment, the result of miscommunication and overconfidence, compromised Charles Leclerc's chances of achieving a strong result at Silverstone. Although the decision to switch to slick tires during the formation lap was more visibly identifiable and unrelated to the missing GPS data, Ferrari's larger problems began to surface later in the race when pit stop timing became the key differentiator. Without access to real-time GPS telemetry, Ferrari's strategic operations were severely hindered. When the time came to call in Lewis Hamilton for a fresh set of intermediate tires, the Italian team made the call significantly later than many of their direct competitors. This delay resulted in Lewis Hamilton losing crucial track position and falling behind his key rivals in the midfield pack. It was at this stage of the race that Nico Hülkenberg capitalized on Ferrari's hesitation, making a timely move that would prove decisive. As the crossover point approached, when the drying track surface begins to favor slick tires over intermediates, Lewis Hamilton transmitted a radio message to the pit wall describing the rapid improvement in track conditions. Despite this, the Maranello team's decision to bring him in early for a switch to soft compound dry tires turned out to be too aggressive and ill-timed. The early move to dry compound tires negatively impacted the competitiveness of the Ferrari SF-25. After the switch to soft tires, Lewis Hamilton experienced two separate instances of loss of grip, which limited his ability to manage the car's pace effectively. A post-race review of performance data and time gaps revealed that these lost seconds could have made the difference between a top 5 finish and a podium position. It is estimated that approximately 5 seconds were lost, mainly in the first sector of the lap, due to a lack of traction and difficulty controlling the SF-25 under those transitional conditions. These lost seconds had a significant impact on the final race outcome for Lewis Hamilton. A strategic miscalculation and tire performance problems therefore cost Lewis Hamilton a podium opportunity. When a Formula One team is unable to rely on a continuous and reliable stream of real-time telemetry data, making accurate and timely strategic decisions becomes extremely challenging. This was exactly the situation that Ferrari and Lewis Hamilton faced during the British Grand Prix. The invisible and intangible nature of the GPS failure greatly increased the margin of error for any pit strategy choices during what was already a chaotic race at Silverstone. Although it is impossible to state definitively how events might have unfolded differently, it is clear that the absence of GPS tracking data did not help Ferrari's cause. During the second half of the race, Lewis Hamilton's race engineer Riccardo Adami requested an update regarding the state of the racing surface, referred to in technical terms as track condition. Lewis Hamilton responded without hesitation, indicating that the track was drying at a relatively fast rate, meaning that the optimal window for switching to dry weather tires was rapidly approaching. A few laps later, Mercedes driver George Russell made the decision to switch to hard compound slicks. However, he soon lost control of his car at the high-speed Beckett's complex and went off into the grass, confirming that the circuit was still too slippery for dry tires at that moment. Despite that warning sign, the intermediate tires on the number 44 Ferrari were rapidly deteriorating. The degradation was reaching critical levels. Observing the pace of Aston Martin driver Fernando Alonso, who was setting quicker sector times across several parts of the circuit, Ferrari decided to call Lewis Hamilton into the pits for a switch to soft tires. Unfortunately, as previously mentioned, the grip level was still too low. Lewis Hamilton ended up sliding off the track as well, struggling to keep the car on the racing line. Following the off-track excursion, Lewis Hamilton asked for a gap update regarding Nico Hülkenberg, only to be informed that the German driver had extended his lead to a full 8 seconds. In hindsight, the pit stop should have been delayed by at least 2 additional laps in order to better align with the optimal tire crossover window. However, Ferrari's team principal Frédéric Vasseur emphasized in post-race interviews that waiting indefinitely to mirror the strategies of other teams often results in missed opportunities to take initiative. Unfortunately, in this particular case, that proactive strategy did not yield the desired result. As a consequence of this miscalculated strategy and the initial technical failure that undermined the entire operation, Lewis Hamilton's remarkable 11-year streak of podium finishes at the British Grand Prix unfortunately came to an end last weekend. For a driver of his stature and track record at Silverstone, it was a disappointing result, especially considering the performance potential of the SF-25 when operating at full strategic capacity.